comment. The minutes, there were a number of changes in the minutes, so.
Try to pull them up.
Um,
You sent
Sure.
them out.
Did everyone take a look at those?
Yes.
I looked at the first ones. I didn't see the changes.
Okay, well, why don't we just pull up the changes and look at that? Any comments on the original?
I did not.
Yeah, look good.
Well, apparently lots of stuff got missed or recorded incorrectly. So I'm sorry about that, and I really appreciate people finding that because, okay, now I have to change what I'm presenting.
Does raise just sort of a general question for folks. So for example, we wanted me to reach out to Ken Wiseman, the chair of the CPC, and talk to him. Do we want to put a note as to what he said in these minutes? Or do we want to wait till this meeting? I mentioned what he said to you folks.
I think we should wait
Yes.
for this meeting. You can,
I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
Okay,
Just sometimes things get lost if they're,
yeah.
but
so you
Okay,
can
great.
see the changes in pink. If you move to the front of the. I should make it a little bigger.
That's all right, Linda.
No, people can enlarge it, I think, at their screen at home if they want to.
There's nobody at home.
I double check to make sure.
Yeah.
4 people waiting to get in. Wow. Yep, so it's, some of it was just sort of spelling out, what segment 1 is. Again, the idea being the meetings are kind of a long-term document, so somebody coming in 5 years from now goes, what the heck?
And it happens, people.
Mhm.
Let me know when it's okay.
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I was just.
Are you good, David?
Yeah.
Um. Okay.
Yep. Okay, so with regard to, not this one. Although this is one of those points. Jane did mention that the Ashland Upper Charles Trail Committee had submitted a article for our annual town meeting for 2 million, but in fact, they're using their residual. It's the APRA fund. The pandemic fund, 2 million, that the select board and the town manager agreed to just use the 2 million from that for this project.
Yeah, and if they run over on the RFP, they're gonna try and go back to the town meeting for more money. That was the idea.
Okay.
Scroll a little more.
So this is, consistent with what Jane said, but it's not exactly
Right.
the situation. So I don't know, do we want to clarify that in this meeting, or is it better to clarify it?
No, I think it's in the meeting tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
All right, and then, so going forward, the other piece was what I added in here, where I did talk about specifically what the CPC chair noted. And so,
Right, so that happened after the meeting.
right, so we should talk about it here and, that'll be part of item 3. That'll be in the minutes.
So I guess the question is then, do I pull that stuff out of here? Because these are the old minutes.
Well, Jane's piece, I think, was correct.
Yes,
So
This
my
one.
piece gets pulled out, I
Okay.
think. I think that's what I'm hearing.
okay.
Or do we want it in both places?
No, I think I just phrased it was fine.
Okay, so we'll pull it out of here and we'll talk about it tonight. Correct. Good, okay. Alrighty,
and just a little tiny bit. Those are nothing big.
So you're supposed to be sharing your screen again?
Oh, I was, what happened? I got booted.
Or Steven said, Kevin.
No, I was, I
Yeah.
just,
Oh, I thought she switched to a different.
no,
no, that's
lost
the
my
only
network
three people.
connection. That's the other thing, network here does not work.
I'll let you back in, as long as you ask to be let back in.
To get the networks to work for me again. So I'm just, I don't know, we've been reporting this to IT for a long time, that this network connection a lot here.
Mhm.
See if I can get back in.
Says you're here at this point. It's interesting. I did not have to read it.
Oh, she's in.
Okay.
I just,
Now we just need to reshare this. I did lose network connection.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we're on the minutes of last time. So we're at. Okay. And there was nothing else big. The other things were just very little.
Correct, the others are,
You're welcome to stay
Minor
on the
items.
last slide. Okay, so I will be pulling out that, 7C.
correct.
Okay,
Okay, any other comments, thoughts?
No.
Other than that, looking for a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nobody's online, so we don't need a roll call vote.
I'm just gonna make a note.
Project updates. So, we want to briefly discuss ongoing and planned projects. And again, this is going to get hopefully bigger, but not overwhelming as we go along, but, so Jane mentioned include the Upper Charles Trail site walk. So thought there is, when do we want to do that site walk?
Chuck joins us.
Start join.
It wasn't me.
And then where do we want to meet? How much do we want to do at any one time? We can meet East Main Street side. I think that won't be too wet to park in there.
money right now, but.
Yeah.
we- I guess how much. And then from the Hopkins State Park, what we always used to like to do is park in the Upper Beach parking lot and walk across the dam. And then take the trail toward Legacy Farms. It was easier to actually solve the trail that way than trying.
Yeah, parking on
Yeah,
Legacy North or whatever it's.
to be frank with you, it's difficult to find the trail from Legacy Farms north into the area where we're planning to go. Because it's just so invasive. But we can make it the other way.
So which way can you just?
So what we would like to do is at least take two cars, one park. For drivers and leave it at Legacy Farms, the parking lot. Up there by. Farms, on the roads up there,
Mhm.
and then rest another car, go down to the Hopkinton State Park, and then we kind of just shuttle.
Yeah, or we could park in that, like it's, you know. So we can kind of figure out where it went. I mean, Ken, we're in there, so we should have some idea.
This,
That there is good parking at that Legacy North
yes, there is.
parking area. We could initially go south from there down to East
And
Main.
this time of year would be the best time of year for this invasive tree. Overgrown, overfunded the trail. There might be a better chance to do that now. Maybe I can scout it out and then we can put that together.
Should we pick a date for that?
Yeah. I would say, I mean, my thought is sooner rather than later, but
Sure.
You know, I think you want to get it while things are still kind of wet, so you see what it looks like when it's wet,
Right,
Mhm.
where the issues are.
you know.
So do you want to do something like a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning or? I don't know what people's workday they like.
Oh, that. Just, yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry, I have to segue. Jack, your picture was in Jeff Representative Arena DeRosa's newsletter,
Oh, yes.
getting your
Oh, yeah.
30 years of service. Congratulations.
No, actually, that was, that's not inaccurate, if that's what it said.
Oh,
No, I was chair of the stewardship council for 3 years. I stepped down. I'm still on the council. We had the meeting, we have a December meeting, it's always in the State House, and he showed up, so.
I thought it
That's-
said your 30 years. so that could be wrong.
Well,
And Peter was in the Metro West. Well, I'm segueing, I'm sorry. That didn't mean, but Peter was in Metro West Daily News yesterday because you want to say it?
Sure. 6 decades of
Oh, I know.
sub 3, yeah.
Sub 3 hour marathons, which is really
And I'm running Boston this year, so
Oh,
which
you
is
are?
why it's, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
two really.
But this one doesn't count for you, right, for that?
no.
You gotta
No,
wait.
I'm not running this one sub 3.
No, but you're also, you're on that 10-year wait.
Yeah, no, I have to turn 70 and then I can
Do it.
Okay,
That's
sorry.
the super shoes.
Thought that was impressive.
Um,
So. So you're looking for, do
Well,
we
I'm
wanna
just, I
pick a
don't know
date?
what everybody's schedule is like. I know a lot of us can do any day of the week, but I think some of us are tied
Yes.
down to the weekends.
I mean, yeah, mine is, weekdays are better in the sense that if I have grandfather responsibilities, that pops up, so
mhm.
that's fine. Happens.
I would prefer weekend.
I could throw out April 13th. Sunday, if we want to do April,
Is that a Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday.
or the 26th is a Saturday.
26th is Park Serve Day. I usually go to Whitehall and do that.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, see if I like doing that as well.
It's actually, if anybody hasn't done it, it's really worthwhile.
White.
Yeah.
I didn't know they did that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I've done it.
I'm like on.
I just grab a plastic bag and walk around.
Oh, you,
28, April 28th.
Yeah,
oh,
No, the 26th, it's a Park Serve Day, Saturday.
so it's the cleanup, the Friends of White cleanup.
Oh, no, it's actually a larger thing. It's all around, it's the entire state. Park Serve.
Right.
it coincides
just
with the
being
bike ball cleanup thing.
Yeah,
Yes, that's what.
Okay.
and you'll find out how messy people really are.
Yeah, although we were just talking, it's actually
It's
been not
pretty-
bad lately.
Yeah,
the
there's
last few
probably
years.
years for any trash.
Yeah.
Or.
So we have
On a boat.
Palm Sunday, the 13th. And we said the 26th, but it seems like that's a conflict
I
with the
can't
Park Serve Day.
No,
Well, it's only, I mean, if you wanted to, we could do it in the afternoon, because the Whitehall cleanup's only in the morning, but it's up to you. Or the two things.
Why don't you go for the 13th and then if it doesn't work out, you can always pick another date.
Mhm.
Or you can have a rain date, pick another date. Doesn't matter what.
what time? Do we have a time?
9, 10.
9 o'clock.
It'll take a couple hours.
Well, I prefer in the afternoon because it is
Okay.
Palm Sunday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's right. I keep getting.
How about 12 or 1?
I used to like Palm Sunday, but
Why'd
they
you go
switched
for
1.
to the vigil now and it drives
Does
me
1
nuts.
PM work, Sean?
I'm sorry?
Does 1 PM work?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, so April 13th, 1 PM.
And I just will like to have an exact address that we're meeting at. I understand we said Legacy Farms North parking lot. I assume we mean on that road, but there's at least 2 parking lots on that road.
Yeah,
so-
the one furthest, just before the intersection of Legacy and Wilson.
Okay, so closer to the state park. Okay.
And we're gonna have a meeting before then, so we can kind of finalize the details.
Okay.
Right.
But we talked about parking in the middle, going south and back, and then going north and back, or going from Hopkinton
Right.
all the way south. with the
So,
shuttle.
so if you meet it at the north parking lot.
Yeah.
And then we can figure out from there who wants to take the shuttle.
Oh, shuttle from there.
Down to
Yeah,
Hopkins and
yeah,
State
all
Park.
right. Gotcha.
so that there's a car on either end.
Or you can walk back.
Or run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. All right, regard to Center Trail to Chamberlain Extension, Chuck Dottie is working on that with me, and he sent over his comments on the notice of intent plans to Beals and Thomas, who's our consultant on that, and they said they'll be looking at them end of the week and then get back to us. And our plan is to go in and meet with them and just finalize everything so we can get Concom. And
What's the scope?
the scope is a trail going from the Loop Road to Chamberlain Street Extension. The small portion's already done because they're putting houses in, so that's where we walked when we did the cellar hole there.
So connecting that to essentially Loop Road.
To the Loop Road, exactly, and so there's a section that needs bridge,
There's two crossings, right, stream crossing.
one. One in there, yeah.
And what's that on the bridge at the top of the fields he's doing?
Yeah, no, that goes right down along the field there. There's no crossing there. It's good.
It's the surface.
It'll be stone dust ultimately when it gets put in. But this is, the phase we're in now is getting the Concom plan buy off, and then I've been looking at, what we need for bid documents to go out. I had a meeting with Robert Wideneck, formerly from Beals and Thomas, but he's the one who put the trail in over at for Holliston, the Upper Charles Trail over there, talking to him about whether he had experience with bid documents, which he didn't. He kind of used the approach I used, so that's going to be a little bit interesting.
What's that approach?
If you're doing state work, as long as each piece is under 10,000, then you don't need to go
Right.
big bid. So this will be under 100,000. So it's going to have to go through the mass system, which is still fine, but we want to make sure there's flexibility in there.
I've also understood that on some types of projects, because if it's a town project, the bid is even higher. Might want to check with
The bid is,
Dave Del Torio and
The amount you mean?
ESC amount, I'm sorry.
what do you mean it's higher?
You don't have to, if it's like under $80,000 or something, you're excluded if it's a town project and certain town engineers and stuff.
I know he used that there's an emergency
Yeah, so
waiver
just
that
saying.
it's used a couple of
yeah,
times.
that's
Yeah.
An alternative, if
Mhm.
you
Yeah, I'll check with
want to
Dave.
get around with that, and,
Yeah.
Why, how much do you think this is gonna cost?
well, it's just going through the process.
No, I understand, but it's just.
So the issue is that on all the other trails that were built, I was out there working with the guys. They said, oh, we've got, like Hughes Trail is a perfect example. So the area through the long straight sets with wetlands on both sides, we used a mat on that. So we didn't want to dig out any loam because that would have put us into the water. So we really couldn't do that. So we put a mat down. But as we started up the hill going towards Joseph Road, that's getting into what was an old field. So instead of, you would normally expect 6 inches to a foot of loam, there's about 2 feet of loam in that whole thing. So again, we switched approach as we went up that hill to compensate for that loam being there and to still have a steady, firm enough base for us.
You asked what the cost of this project was, and I think this is the one that was on.
Yeah, it's 107 total.
And we have 47 left or something?
Now, there's 2 pieces. One was 47, which was left, and then we got another 60
Okay,
last town meeting and the town meeting before.
I'm sorry. Can you
Yeah.
just say that differently? So
Okay,
out of 107,000 total,
there were 2 town meeting CPC articles.
In which year? Both the same?
One was, I think, no, there were separate years. One was 22 and one was 23.
Hmm.
I think could have been 21 and 23.
Okay,
One was for 47,000 approximately. The other was for 60,000 approximately, totaling 107.
okay. And have we spent some of that so far?
That's what we have left. So we had originally, we spent about 20.
Okay,
No, I think that's accurate. We spent about 35, with 20 of it on engineering and 15 on one section connecting out to Chamberlain Street.
okay. So out of the 107, we've only spent 35?
No, we have 107 left. We had, say, 70 to start with. And is that right? 70 minus 47. So actually it must have been more like 80.
Okay, so I'm down,
We started with 80 in the first ask.
okay,
We've spent roughly 32 of that, leaving, or 33 of that, leaving us 47 in the first article. We asked for an additional 60,000.
okay,
The difference being COVID, pre-COVID and post-COVID, and what happened to construction prices in that interim.
and so we haven't spent anything out of that 60K.
Correct.
And who owns that?
The town ultimately, the town does now, and I think open space controls it, but that's not I'm not positive on that. The school owns part of it too. That is gonna be one of the things we'll have to do is we've gone to the school committee already about that project, but that was, I think, pre-COVID, so a refresher is probably in order for them.
Just out of curiosity, do we have a plan with like an end date in mind on this, or are we kind of working it out?
July, the money goes away July 26th, according to 2026 for CPA funds. I mean, we could get an extension for that, but that's, the idea is to get working on it and ideally get it done this construction season.
Okay,
And so the next action is to figure out the bidding process.
In parallel with the notice of intent going to Concom with that, so getting their approval.
And who's doing that?
I am with Chuck Dotchie, who formerly was part of this committee, but we can always task somebody with doing, he's a wetland scientist too, so the Concom piece is in his wheelhouse. That's what that is. Website, you want to talk briefly about that?
now I think, so I think when we talk about public outreach, we should make sure website is something we want to talk
That's
about.
part of that, okay. Parking on Ash Street, I put that in there because, again, those are the dollar items that we have outstanding. We need to kind of keep working on that. Because I mentioned last time, kind of, we know what needs to get done there. It's pretty simple to take some pictures and scenic road, tree measurements, and then have a hearing on that.
And is anyone doing that? Or are you tasking yourself? with
I'm
that?
tasking myself with that, but I'm kind of throwing it out as
Is there anybody who would like
want to.
some instruction?
Which committee does it need to go to?
Planning board and planning board and the tree warden, who is the DPW director, but it's one meeting. So you have your scenic road hearing and your shade tree hearing at the same time.
Public sentiment last time, many years ago, what, 4 or 5? Gave us a hard time, you know, it's changed.
Where specifically?
On National, we wanted to put in a parking lot on Ash Street for access.
Oh,
Dean was the one who presented it originally.
that was further down. Yeah, that was going between a couple of houses and it's kind of a, yeah.
It was right at the farm.
So the steps involved would be taking pictures of where we want to put the parking,
measuring the trees,
measuring.
let's say what comes out.
So if I could ask, where exactly is it, the location?
It's right on the side of the road by, just south of the driveway into Abbott Farm.
Pretty sure that's where it originally was, but that's.
Yeah.
We'll find that out.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's where Lane.
And then is it like sort of putting a little pitch together about that to take to the meeting?
Right. It's like, here's what we were looking to do and
Is that dead tree still there? That was a big issue. Did it come? down
big
in the
oak?
Storm, yeah.
no, that, and again, that is further down.
I could bring,
I actually complained about, I didn't think that was a particularly good location for it.
Okay,
Talked to Elaine about it. We actually came up with a different alternative, actually.
oh, good.
How many
Um,
parking spots?
It's like 2, maybe 3. And
So
just
like you
side of
cross
the road.
Safely.
On the side of the road,
That's
but it's not even a real lot. It's.
No, right now, it's where you pull off anyway. I mean, when we had the high school kids doing projects down there, and I think we had 4 cars in there, and your cars are just more slanted, so it's bringing in a couple loads of material to kind of,
Even it out.
yeah, not have it be like this, but something closer to that. Tie it into the stone wall there, move the stone wall around a little bit, and then get a couple of trees out of the way. There's a,
Can you move stone wall without
With permission.
with permission, yeah.
from home?
Planning board.
That's scenic road hearing, that's,
Oh, I see.
so that's part of that, you know. And we may not need to move it, but I think if you look at the stone wall, you can see it's kind of in rough shape, so Scott was like, well, we oughta. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, we can't do that until we do the other, so.
could we ask Scott if he would be willing to do it?
This was,
Different Scott.
Scott Curran, yeah, my construction guy.
So they could take that on.
That's an easy one, and just because it's easy and because I've talked with the constructor, it's probably best that I do it.
Okay,
I mean, I can help you, Peter.
Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
done it before and.
Yeah, no, that would be good. So, okay, I'll reach out to you. You've got 2 tasks.
It's I think that's a
I
great
do.
idea.
You and Chuck Dodgy. I'm gonna give Chuck your contact information. You guys are doing the trail behind,
Yeah, I'm not sure we're gonna talk about that tonight too. I didn't think so.
no, that's not on, but it came up at the Trails Club meeting, which was right before this.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I'll give you Chuck's contact information, assuming it's okay with you, so.
No, that's
Yeah.
fine. That's fine.
Cause you
That's
guys are gonna
great.
do the first route, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
okay,
all right, so I'll reach out to you when you get the stuff. We can go take a look at it and.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
Yeah, the daylight nights, weekends is best for me.
Mhm. Yep,
School costs.
yeah, middle school cross country. Again, we have a little bit of money left over from that. We've sort of over time figured out what the drainage issues are, so I think we can address that, probably bring another load of material in there. Move it around with the Bobcat. And probably be done with that.
All right, so put me where this is.
Middle school cross country courses comes in off of center. It comes from the high school turf field.
Yes,
The end of that, and then goes into the woods. and
north.
North, right, north of that field,
Yes,
goes into the woods, down and connects to the center trail.
gotcha. Yep.
And there's been, we put it in, it was probably a little bit too low to start with, so there's been drainage issues across it, so.
So that's what the pipe is. right?
Getting that, yeah. And the pipe, we may actually use hand labor to do. So we'll see. That Dell is looking for a volunteer opportunity for 15 people, so we may give 3 of them. We dug it out with scouts. I think Dell workers could probably do it pretty quickly, so. It goes surprisingly quickly and that stuff. So that's taken care of. Trail painting, one of,
Oh, so when you say that's taken care of, that means it's already been planned or organized or?
Yeah, pretty.
Chuck's gonna reach out.
Chuck's reaching out to those people. We'd like them to do it before marathon weekend, but we don't know when the Dell
Chuck is
volunteers.
coordinating with the Dell volunteers.
Right, as part of Trails Club,
I see.
and then we kind of,
And because the request came in through, the volunteer offer came in through Halls, which Chuck is part of.
I see.
So
Okay.
a little bit of,
That's fine. No,
Yeah, it was-
I just wanted to clarify what it's all done means. That's all.
Yeah.
no, and it's a
Meaning it's all set up to happen
yes.
ideally before marathon day.
Right, and maybe after, we don't know, and it is, I see sort of the quizzical look, but. Part of our job is to coordinate what everyone's doing.
Right.
And to be the town face on it. So, for example, on the middle school overall thing, there's money involved for that, so that's our supervision. The Trails Club, right in the same area, has the fitness equipment, which is sitting up at the school right now, needs to be put in. I've got a scout who's lined up to do that. Technically, that was one of those participatory budget things that Norman set up, so it's really a Trails Club project. But we can help them, they, you know, in order to get that fitness equipment set up properly, they need to put concrete base in. Well, yes, the Boy Scouts can all bring down 80-pound bags of concrete. But it might be easier, seeing as how I have a piece of equipment in here, to throw it, to coordinate that, so it's a mutual coordination on some of this stuff. You know. The other is just hire all of it out, but I think we're not there yet.
I'm just trying to clarify.
No,
Trying to make sure that the communication is consistent and
and it's, I guess, I'm not being very clear on it, but I think it's really important to do that and keep buddy, because I've got my, you know, I've got this stuff set up.
It's on automatic.
It kind of is, but we are the ones doing it, not me, but we. And so if
Yeah.
I'm not being clear on something, say, hey, what are you really doing here? And there may be a better way to do it too. You know, I mean, you're sitting over there with you know, a little skid steer or something you've got in your backyard, and you go, I got a tractor, I can maybe do that for the scouts, and maybe it's, you know, they're just,
you don't want me driving the skid steer.
the last time I drove when I sunk it up there, that was before Center Trail went in, but anyway, Al Rogers sunk it deeper, so I felt better. He came in to help get it out.
Hey, this is being recorded.
I know. Here's what it is. All right,
Trail naming.
trail naming. So, yeah, one of our jobs is ultimately gonna be naming trails. I think the cross-country coach said that their kids call it Fern Glen Trail. I've been calling it the middle school cross-country trail, which boring as heck. Fern Glen Trail sounds pretty nice, and
All of that.
there's ferns as you run down. it.
Oh, okay.
Glen,
It's like a meadow where you can,
yeah, so,
It's spelled out like that.
but, I mean, ultimately, one of the things we talked about with the previous committee, and that I put it on here, is that there's a whole naming process. We just don't go throw a name on. So it's got to be relevant and rules, and what we decided,
depending on.
yeah, ideally, it's, yeah, there's a
Budget list.
there's a list. The thought was that we would name trails
Interesting.
once every 6 months.
Is there a written list on rules for naming trails?
There's a written list, yes.
Yeah, any individual policy
Yeah.
on what you have to do that.
Yes.
We should, I should get a copy of that so we can unfold it, because I've never seen that.
Okay,
There as well. And,
Is that a town policy or?
Yes.
Town
oh,
policy?
it's a system, this.
Oh, the Suda?
this
Okay.
is a-
I can ask the Suda.
check. I've got a send it to you too.
Okay. That would be great. And do we get any say in that list? Or-
We get to submit the names.
Yeah.
They explain whether they would like one name or color.
Right, right, you have to usually.
Then they have
Or
alternates that they don't.
the select board is the one who decides. Who meets the criteria, but, we talked about it at the other committee, is that, you know, every time we come up with a name, do we go ahead and submit it, or do we wait,
Yes.
and every 6 months? You know,
Yeah, I think 6 months makes more sense, just to
Yeah.
get them all at once.
consolidate, yeah. Okay. And, yeah, so let's put that on our agenda item every 6 months or so to come up with names and,
Do we know, someone's trying, oh, Chuck raised his hand.
yes, Chuck?
Just regarding trails naming, or this may relate to trail signage, but the trails connecting the new Chamberlain extension to the Loop Road and the Center Trail. There, when the planning board approved the subdivision, they gave the OSPC responsibility somehow for overseeing the signage, or the having signs at the trailheads there. So just suggesting that when you're considering trail naming, trail marking, this is something where the committee perhaps should try and coordinate with OSPC to come up with something, because right now there's no formal signage there, and the trails are actually usable now, in spite of a stepping stone stream crossing. So that's something that I think should be on your agenda as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Steve Pavelski is very involved in signage and placing times.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. That whole Chamberlain extension has a bunch of trails in there that really nobody knows much about, and they're not named,
Right.
and probably should be, because, again, public outreach, letting you know where trails are is good.
Yeah, I actually hate when people build new trails but don't have trail signs on them, because I just regularly get lost when there's a new trail and there's no arrow. And I was just on Center School Trail again today, and there's like another new trail with no arrows. It's just so easy to get lost. Like, if it was up to me, you
Where-
can't put a new trail in there. If you
Where
put
is that?
it's going straight up a hill. It may be a private trail, I don't know, but it's very, and there's another one that kind of goes off to a lookout. It's very easy to get lost off of there. So I just almost wish we would never put in a trail without first ordering the signs. That's sort of my, as Peter knows.
So so if you head behind Center School,
Mhm.
go down the hill, you
The
take a
Orange
left.
Trail, you take the Orange Trail, the upper one, the Ridge Trail.
Yeah.
And as you're heading down on your right, there's a part where you can kind of go to an overlook. And when you head down from that, there's no signage,
Oh.
you can kind of get lost. So if you're like, oh, I want to go see that overlook, it looks like it's right off the trail, but it's not. And then when you go down the trail a little farther and you get almost to where you're at the bottom and you look straight up, there's now, I've never seen this trail before, maybe it's been there, but there's this trail that goes almost straight up, which means I'd never choose to walk it, but it would be very easy to get lost and go on that instead of the path. So I just don't really like when people build new trails without making sure there's a sign to keep you on the main trail, that's all.
Those, Yeah.
Would they be animal trails?
No.
no, their neighbors have put those in, and they go to private property, which
Yeah, and
is,
that's always a challenge too.
yeah,
Well,
so, I
We
mean,
can always,
what you see DCR doing is putting trail to private property. Feel free to run down here, but
No, but
don't expect an ending.
that's not a bad idea. We've had to do that on Echo Trail a couple of spots.
you know, a lot of times you get people doing trails and they're actually going through wetlands, and it's not a good idea,
Mhm.
because then you know. It's just not a good idea.
well.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's some.
And it usually winds up in a conflict.
Well, we were talking on the way over, somebody has been putting in logs alongside the trail behind Center School. And again, that's not good trail building because it traps water and leaves and stuff in the trail. But, you know, I'm conflicted with that stuff. If I find the person out there doing it, I'll say, hey, you know, this creates more problems than it solves, but I don't want to just willy-nilly throw this stuff out of the way because we've got somebody working on trails. You know, they need to be directed better, but they're, you know, sort of like, you're on our side, we don't want to pick these people off. You know, it's kind of that interesting balance.
Foundations and public outreach and
Yeah.
education.
Yeah, exactly.
Good stuff.
Anyway, okay, moving on, actions of other boards, committees and trail centric groups. CPC is kind of the big one, and I think, you know, the key issue there is I talked to Ken Wisemantel, who's chair of the CPC. He noted that prior to spending funds, a budget would need to be provided and approved by the CPC. They have an agreement that we have to sign off on first. That's actually apparently ready to go. I just need to get up there and sign that on behalf of.
Let's repeat what you said. I'm sorry. It went fast.
Fair enough. You're doing the minutes. I'll do whatever you want. So I talked to Ken,
Mhm, heard that part.
Yep.
It's before providing.
right, before providing, before releasing funds for a project, they would like a more definitive budget to be provided to them for them to okay.
Okay,
And that's a relatively new procedure for them. Expenditures less than, but not more than the full funding amount would generally be acceptable. So they're not going to be happy if we've got a budget of 48,000 and they come in and say, well, this is only 50,000. It's like, well, 48's available to you. You got to find the other two.
Mhm.
So, which, you know, is understandable, but in regards to some of our discussion from last meeting, you know, if we come in and we say, hey, we need $20,000 to do this, and he would go, oh, you've got 48, you're good. So spending less than that is.
But it still wants a budget.
He still wants a budget.
And a budget would be a detailed line item of the expected expenditures.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all. Just want to know.
Yeah, typically we'd go out to bid, get the bid in and provide that to them.
Sure.
and are we referring specifically to the the UCT for this particular item?
That was the primary focus, but it's also general.
Okay.
So no matter what the project is, stay under budget,
So
we're
like
gonna get.
even the Ash Street parking.
Correct.
and What was the other one we talked about tonight?
Chamberlain going up.
Is that
The Chamberlain
CPC
extension.
also?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll get a budget
Mhm.
to them on that. So again, for the, you know,
And is there anything more specific on the Upper Charles part over segment one that you want to talk about? I'm sorry if you were getting there, I'm sorry.
yes, I was. The work must match what was approved at town meeting, including what was in the town meeting package. So he was having Shannon take a look at that. I looked at it. It was pretty broad. Exactly as we talked about at the last meeting. It's, you know, doing topography and mapping and wetlands. So, and then he also noted that the agreement with CPC for use of funds will be extended on all of the agreement that I'm going to go sign to June 2026. So just,
For all of them.
yes, he's going to do it for all of them, just blanket. Put Open Space Preservation Committee in there. Jane, I know you're working on Franklin Street. That's
Yes, we are. the developer finally is releasing the more detailed identifiers for the open space. It's going to be passed to the town.
And this is the parcel that's in
The old
solar,
mutual.
yeah, Liberty Mutual land, and there's a solar farm, but the land was gonna be released to Hull, then to a Native American tribe. And that, oh, it looks like the town's getting it,
Back
so.
to open space, which is where it belongs anyway. And so we were just beginning the discussion of signage and maps and who's allowed to go where, and if Tennessee Gas was actually going to keep people from going on the gas line, which goes through there, and no, that they won't. I mean, they're fine with people walking there now. On top of the gas, but that needed to be clarified because some people have some questions about that.
So they're fine with the continuing.
There would be, owner of the property was going to look into that, but he didn't see any foreseeable problems.
There's trails over through there now,
There are trails through there already,
mostly unnamed, if I recall.
all named, so that's going to have to be addressed. But the neighbors use them all the time, and it's,
That Horsey people do too.
yes, where's if you want in there?
We
And also,
there,
there's a nice access up
Yeah.
to the Legacy Farms
Mhm.
parking lot, so that's going to be a nice draw. You do that piece.
There's really the gorgeous trails.
It is lovely. It's on upland woodlands. But there's work that needs to be done. But now that it's wrapping up, we can start talking about that.
Okay. Good.
Is some of it in Ashland or is it all in?
There is one piece in Ashland that we urged the developer to try and get the Ashland open space to donate over to Hopkinton Open Space so that we could kind of oversee it or somehow work with it together, because that is a lovely piece. And the access point from, is it Deer Run? One of the runs is through the Ashland piece. So we're going to follow through on that. We don't have an answer yet.
Holt has land in there
Yes,
too.
and Halt was very interested in pursuing that avenue as well.
Right.
So hopefully
Steve Lukowski,
the three the various committees that are working, on something can be worked out. I can't imagine that Ashland would oppose something like that.
yeah, I mean, I can't see them giving land to Hopkins and open space, but they could give
Even
it
if
to Hull.
it's like an agreement or
Yeah,
MOU or something.
Yeah.
That we'll just work that out.
all right, item 4 is budget discussion. I was gonna talk to Elaine. I mean, last I talked to her, she said she had $30,000 in for us. I haven't heard anything more about, could you justify that money, which we can certainly do. That's a reason. It's reasonable to have some money in there if we need to look at a piece of property, just to do an appraisal. It's about $5,000. So,
Yeah, you never know when this
and
projects are going to pop up.
exactly, you never know when that may come up. Certainly, we want to have some money available if a scout comes to us and says, hey, I need to get, I'm happy to do the work, the legwork to put a trail in, but there's 4 bridges and, the scouts have to get some money, but there becomes issues if it gets over a certain amount, right?
Well,
What's
it's
that?
not an issue. Basically, if they have to fundraise more than $500, they have to go through a different application process with the scouts. It's not,
Yeah,
so it's,
no, but end of the day, what do we want? We want the bridges built. If we can make their life easier and get our bridges built.
Yeah.
Happy to do that.
Materials, right? Even if it's not a scout project.
Right,
right.
So we have 30K.
Yeah.
It seems there's all got into angst over the budget, so it
What's that?
seems there's a lot of angst over the budget.
There is a lot of it.
there is, but if 30K may be small enough to just kind of keep sliding through. The other big piece of our budget is maintaining trails that are mowed.
That's right.
And then we kind of coordinate with Open Space. Open Space has about a $10,000 budget. So we pick up the mowing costs for some of the open space parcels.
So is the mowing for out of this $30,000?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
How much do the mowing cost?
So is that 30 grand for like also a cover, and like on the the cemetery, you see trees come down there all the time.
Right, so trees come, yeah. A lot of times the trees come down, they're taken out by volunteers, but we did have that big one that we
Yeah.
ended up getting taken out by
Signage would be in this.
Yes.
signage, exactly falls into this.
But do we have routine maintenance that we gotta do on an annual basis when you say mowing?
The mowing is sort of an annual.
Right.
So there's two pieces. One is clearly ours, which is at Pratt Field and Hughes Field, we mow the perimeter trails
Right.
there on a typically a weekly basis in the summertime,
Right.
so that people can walk there. For Pratt Field, and Hughes, we also do an annual, one-time mowing that really should be open space budget, but they really need that 10,000 for, they're kind of first line of defense. So we're doing budget now.
We're doing Pratt and Hughes. How much
Right.
is that costing?
It's a couple thousand.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not huge money.
No, that's just
Now,
expectations.
working with Carrie, DPW director, she's looking at getting one overall package for that. So that
That would be
may
nice.
go away, but again, if we don't use the money, it's not like we're going to Aruba or anything for a meeting. So it's, yeah.
So of the 30 grand, we have 27 that we could spend on signs, new projects, appraisals, et cetera.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we have essentially on an annual basis that we would see that's recurring that would come out of that 27?
I would offer probably a contingency for fallen trees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, like on the Senate trail, that's,
But we don't have, I'm just thinking is like, we have $30,000 budget and I anticipate we're gonna be using a lot of it for a variety of projects. But then we have stuff that we say, all right, we already committed to doing, right? But we're saying $2,000 to $3,000 for mowing. Is there anything else in addition to that 2 to 3 that we already have committed that's on an annual basis that's gonna come out of the budget?
I think you have a budget, don't you, with line items? I know our committees do.
But we don't right now, just
We
because
could
it's,
set one up, I think that's
Yeah.
where you're headed. So we have line items so that we could.
yeah, we can, but we have a lot of, a lot of it's sort of contingency money, do we need an appraisal or two? So, okay, there's $5,000 or $10,000, if opportunities come up.
Yeah.
Okay, good to
I mean, we always have, $500 for.
No, I get
So
that.
that just would be something we could look at.
And Scott's gonna be our treasurer, right?
Yeah,
So
and he's
he
familiar
knows
with
that.
that process.
So,
Us with it.
right, we did it, we typically had 25, and then bumped it up to 30 with the trails, the TCMC, of which we very typically spent 10 grand a year. So we had 15 that kind of rolled over, the stayed in the general fund. But that 15 was there in case we had something,
No, I understand
a big
that.
storm. Yeah, no, that's where,
If a big project comes up and it's $30,000, we can't do it because we only have 27, because we already committed to
Right,
mowing lawn
right,
with 3.
right.
And that's really, I'm just,
Trying to get the lay of the land.
well, that's it, just like, all right, so what?
no, and
So
so.
expectations.
So looking back at what we've done, we probably spent 10, but I still kept the budget at 25, with the idea being of
Yeah.
who knows what's.
No, that's fine.
Yep.
That's
So, and then the other thing we tried to do, again, was we decided that for trail maintenance, it'd be good to hire, high schoolers or college students in the summertime. They could walk down and clear a lot of these trails, it'd be a great, internship program. Chuck Daughtry was familiar with that. His son did a lot of that out in Leverett. They had that program all set up. Norman, through HR, did not want to do that. Kind of went through, you really can't do that. Then it turns out that DPW actually, but does do it. So,
All right, well, I just wanted to know, but the lay of the land, that's all. Thank you.
so lay of the land is
We have
typically
27.
10,000. We typically don't know on the rest of the big, we have a fairly large, from our perspective, but not from the town's perspective, contingency.
Is there someone that snow plows any of the parking lots?
No,
School does theirs.
right,
Right.
but any of the trailheads typically none.
Okay,
The only one, so the trail club, when they're holding their walks in the wintertime, typically goes to Fruit Street because obviously that one's plowed.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the soccer field parking lot is plowed,
Oh, okay, yeah. I was thinking,
but not the,
Pratt Farm,
yeah, no, not the. that one.
when was the, on-street lot was not plowed at all.
Correct.
Because
Somewhere
we can't do it in the future, but it's just gonna be discussed.
Right.
We'd have to have snow, then we have to,
Yeah, I have a question on a lot. You know, the Senate Trail lot right across from Hopkinton lumber.
Yep.
What's the status of that lot? He gave it to the respite center, right?
Yes.
yes, the respite center owns it.
Okay,
We use it with their permission.
that's a lot that could be.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that's something we can think about in terms of, it's not town land, but it certainly benefits the town.
A lot.
Yes.
Sorry, not to bring up a topic, but last year we talked a lot about can town money be spent on things we don't
Yeah, I
own? And let's sure as we can, as long as it's a benefit. Because we talked about it with all specifics.
With regard to, that's specifically CPA funds, yeah.
Oh, okay. Could town money be spent too out of our budget?
That's always a negotiation, so yes, I think it could be.
We didn't have to have a discussion about it.
Yeah, again, Norman was not keen on that. He wanted, full easements from Halton. It's like, no, the land is there for the use of the public, and the Hopkinton residents are the key public who's using it. CP, Community Preservation Act rules say that is an allowable use, and Elaine's aware of that and
Yeah.
gave us that information.
And like that lot at if you could get, Mary and Shannon to agree to put a restriction on that parking. So it would say a parking, lot, then it would be well worth it.
Yes,
I do notice the famous circle that they built at the end of the trail. It's all cracked now. More high quality construction work. Do they have a construction supervisor in this? I mean, it's disgraceful.
What, the end of winter.
They built this big circle of concrete and the concrete's cracking now.
well, they obviously have a bunch of concrete problems, because you notice there's cones going up.
No,
Oh,
it's just, they built this fancy thing with brick and then concrete's cracked. So it's like, and that's less than a year old. I mean, do they go after these contractors for this stuff?
Wrong meeting.
So I mean, sorry, but it is relevant to the trail because it's the entryway to one of the most popular trails in town.
So that's a public comment, but we're happy to take that under advisement, and you would like us to perhaps bring that up with the powers that be in town, we can certainly do that.
It just seems to me that it's,
Well, you're up there, could you take some pictures so you can share it with us?
yeah, I go there every morning.
Perfect.
Elaine? Yeah, I mean, let's go to the top.
I mean, it's less than
Chicken trickle it down.
It's already cracking. There's one big crack, so my assumption is the rest of it will crack all the time. They didn't put an adequate base up.
Right.
But it's frustrating. All right, so, sorry, address.
No, but that, you could have brought that actually in public comment. We're all public too. So if you've got something that's not on the agenda and you want to bring it up, we can't really discuss it in great
Right.
detail, but we can direct it. So I would say this is simply directing it. So, all right, signs, Linda.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about outreach and actions we want to take. And one of them might be this project we started last year on the TCMC. And it's called Trail Signs on Roadsides. So I'm gonna walk through a pitch. Let's see if it's, oh. Okay.
So
Oh, it's right there.
for the perspective of the group, we got pretty far down the road to the point of deciding kind of what kind of signs we liked. And, you know, even what trails we thought, the idea was to put 4 or 5 out, try them in various places. And these are trails that would, or signs that would be perpendicular to the roadway, so.
Yeah, we'll get,
Perpendicular flow of traffic, so people driving around the road see, oh, there's a trail there.
so you're stealing the whole thing.
Fine, go ahead.
But thank you for the context that we got really far down. So
Yeah.
when we get into the topic of deciding actions in publicity and outreach, maybe this could be one of them because we're pretty far along. So basically, this is a summary. There aren't enough people who know where trails are. And our trails are a huge asset we should promote to both residents and visitors. And how do I know not enough people know where trails are? We had a jog forum last year. 30 people there, all of them walking the trails almost every day. Don't know the names of any of them, even though there is a trailhead sign there. But in any case, people are like, where's that trail? What's that trail? So this would really help. And other towns do this. Let's see, in our town, SVT actually does have a trail sign at Whitehall Woods, Sudbury Valley Trustees. And most of the sign is their logo, very little for the name of, which I hate. I'd much rather see the name of the trail than their logo, but roadside trail signs is probably one of the best ways to increase usage of trails, was our opinion last year. Like, of all the things we came up with, this was one we thought would have a good bang for the buck. At the very least, it raises awareness, but we think it would raise usage. Based on you drive past something, you're like, oh, I wonder what that is. Next time you're going by, you'll stop and check it out. We decided a standard sign for all trails in town, regardless of which organization owns it, and jump in wherever you want to,
Good
Peter.
idea.
Whether it's Walt, DCR, you know,
Space.
SAT, yeah, exactly.
Well, you know, if you look at in terms of trail visibility, that across from Hopkins at one of that is the Senate Trail. It's that, if you go there in the morning, every morning, 5,000 cars drive by that place. It's
Right.
Yeah,
everybody that goes to the high school is, you know, it's just,
seen
and
it,
Right.
exactly.
And you,
usually they're either stopped or going very slow.
and if you did a survey of those people and said, do you know where Center Trail is?
Then
Half of them would not know.
more than half of them. So-
Yeah, whereas if you've got that sign perpendicular to flow, it's like, oh. Oh, that trail, oh, I know where that trail is. You know, maybe I don't know the name, but I know.
But the exposure in a place like that.
Yes.
is just
Yeah.
huge.
Exactly. So, oops, sorry, oops. So it could also help brand our trails committee and or our trails work in a way. That's not the main point. Most people don't really care who owns it, and we can acknowledge who owns it at a trailhead sign, but that doesn't need to be on the roadside sign. And what we had done last year is, Peter said, we got pretty far along. We approved the project, we approved a design. We plan to proceed with a pilot for 4 trails to see how it worked. And then if it worked well, we'd get feedback, we'd adjust and do it for all the trails. But we're a whole new committee. We should, you know, put it on the table again.
But there's certainly no point
So this is,
in going back through the whole thing again either.
Right.
I mean,
So that's a,
Well, it's,
it's a while to get to this point, and so I wouldn't want to say you're forced to choose this. If you're like, that sign's ugly, don't do this, do this, we should revisit, you know?
yeah.
It was a 5-person committee and this is a 9-person.
no, but I mean, I think.
So this is what the,
Be
exactly
really-
what we're talking about. this
No, exactly,
Pacific
exactly.
Trail. And this is one, so one thing we did not agree on, we were kind of split, was whether the name of the trail should be there or not. So here's one without the name of the trail, and then the first one I showed had the name of the trail. So maybe what we were gonna do was pilot both. If this committee feels differently, we don't have to do that. We could pick one way or the other. What we decided to do was have a generic sign without the name, because you could print up lots of these for less money because they're all the same. It's a little more money when each sign's custom. It would be on a standard street sign post. Arrow, we would have an arrow sign that you stick at the bottom, so you could just flip it either
put
way
the
you need
name
it.
on-
What's that?
You could put the name on the arrow, the name of
Mm,
the trail.
We would
Still
do
need
that.
consolidation.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Pretty
way
small
this-
too.
the way this would work is there'd be this sign, but then at the entrance to the trail, there could be a more detailed sign, which.
Mhm.
Right, so we've got the big, like, the example that Linda brought up is the Hughes Trail. So people driving down Hayden Row, as they're going by, they're going 40 miles. Friends who, you know, what's that? I see that parking lot, I see that field, and I see there's a sign or something over there, but what is that? Whereas if this is out on the road, it's like, oh, there's a trail there. And maybe not this time, but maybe this weekend when I'm looking for something to do, I'll pull in here and, oh, there's the sign that says Hughes Trail and there's a QR code on that and so on and so forth.
Right, is there the assumption with this sign that anybody who looks at it's gonna know it's a public access trail? I assume so.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So,
I think it's a good idea. Particularly if you want to promote trails,
Mhm.
there's some certain places where you just get a lot of traffic.
and it would be on the front and back, so you could see it either direction of traffic.
That's what my question is. It's gonna be double sided.
And it would be 8 inches high, the trail part, and then arrows add 2 inches, I think, and another 2 to 4 inches on top for the name. Cause names don't fit real well in the arrow, you have to make it a lot
Did I
bigger.
understand you correctly, Peter, to say that when you, once you got on the trail a little ways, then you would have
Yeah.
more information about specific trails? I think that's a good
But
idea.
at least they know there's a way.
There's a trail here.
There's a trail here.
Right,
that's
right.
important.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
Do you have to deal with Mass Highways on this?
If it's a.
Through DPW,
I
yeah,
think you do.
Yeah. well, it depends, yeah,
But
so
definitely.
on 135 and.
What was
I
the
mean,
feedback?
I think it just, one of the things that when I was,
Kerry Reed does not like signs.
We'll get to that.
Additional signs.
you know, well, she doesn't like doing her job. So anyway, but so, we did watchable wildlife signs. And so, and that's why something like this is good. So they're all over the state and the sites are very specific, like a trail, but whatever. But if you put it out there, anybody in town is gonna see that and if we do our job, they'll know there's a trail there.
Mhm.
And we just did a generic sign that says watchable wildlife site. Don't tell you what it is. It's just, and then there's a book you can look in and it'll
When you
take
get
you.
down there, it tells.
So we would do the same with some other mapping function.
Mhm.
So the question was, should we include the trail name or not? So if we included it, it would be stuck, we would make each one of those, obviously, we'd make 2 for each trail. But they would be separate and added on the top. So when you bolt to a post, there's, you know, 2 bolts, so they go on top. The name adds these benefits. More people know the trail names because mostly they don't now. So they can't easily talk to people about the trail names for whatever reason. It just doesn't stick in people's heads. Feels like this might help it stick in people's heads more. People could more easily identify trails to visit by name, like they could search for it. Like they could say, oh, I saw a trail on Hayden Road. It's called Hughes Trail. I can search for where it is. If it just says trail, they kind of have to remember where they were. And it's a little harder to find. It's definitely better when there's more than one no-name trail sign on a street, like on Center School, on Ash Street, we have Center School Trail. We're gonna have Elmwood Farm sign, we may have another one. If you've got 3 signs on the same road that say trail, it just gets a little weird. So those are reasons for doing it. The reason for not doing it is the sign is cleaner and simpler. And are there any other reasons for not doing it? A little less cost.
Yeah, I mean, and then sort of along the same line is if you go up to New Hampshire, you see the hiking sign. You know, it's the hiking person. There's no trail name. I mean, somewhere along you'll see a trail name, but same deal. It lets you know there's a trail there. This is actually Linda came up with this idea, which I like for Hopkinton specifically. But obviously, just the hiking person is something that is known.
Here's the design
So that-
decisions we made. We chose not to do the hiker because it doesn't convey inclusivity. The trails are for bikers, people with wheelchairs, runners, walkers, horseback riders. We just kind of felt that showing someone walking didn't convey all that.
Can't get federal funding for it anymore, though.
I didn't say DEI. I just said accessibility. It just felt more inclusive to do that, and we're showing what it is, not what you're doing on it necessarily, because you can do lots of things on it. All our paths are wooded paths, so it seems like that conveyed what we have. That might not always be the case, but and we chose brown rather than green because we started with green because of Hopkinton, but we chose brown because it's the standard color for most outdoor recreational things. We considered having the QR code or a website or something, on the sign, and we're like too busy, too much. People driving by wouldn't see it.
This is a this is a sign for drivers.
Yeah.
right?
Mostly,
Yes.
but walkers too.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it would be 8x6 for just the trail part, 8x2 for the arrows you put below on either side. And 8x2 or 8x4 for the ones up above. And then what we decided to do, so some considerations, it's gonna cost money, it's not that expensive. We'll have to find out, but it's the hardest, the most of the cost is the installation cost. So that would be some work. We would need approval from DPW. We need approval from the town. I don't know exactly who. You might know that. DPW.
Select board for approval and send it down to Terry.
And Peter, you say that you talked to Carrie about it briefly, and she's like, I don't like signs, and you said, one of the select.
I don't want a whole lot of additional signs, and Brian is in the same boat.
Mhm.
Having said that, I know there's some signs around town. There's been a handicap person sign on Saddle Hill that's been there for 25 years.
Like this one on 85 too.
Yeah, and I strongly suspect that,
Long gone.
that person's
Long gone.
no longer there. There's
There's a lot of those.
there's a lot of those, and I actually worked with Brian when I knew he didn't like signs, last time he was selectman, with getting the ones that were all the ones that were around Center School. I'm like, Brian, Center School isn't a school anymore. They can all come down. He's like, yeah, so he was very happy about that, but I think there's ways to horse trade on this.
Yeah, and the town has an asset with these trails, and
Yes.
it's incumbent upon our elected leaders, I
Right.
think, and others to try and promote them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's anecdotally, I've talked to many people walking on the Loop Road that do not know the Center Trail is a trail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people,
Yeah.
and people that I know, and I've said, you should try the trail, and they go, where does it go? What does it do? They don't know. So there is, so we like, if you put one of these on the Loop Road.
Yeah.
They just don't know, they don't know.
Right, and again, there should be something that says what it is too, the maps.
I also think if we properly pitched it as opposed to to follow up on a conversation could help a bit too. And we should find out why they don't like signs, because
Next they look at it as literally things like that, but I think you're right. The whole-
Maintenance.
the whole thing needs to be cleaned up around.
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
a ton of signs and,
Right, that are unnecessary.
yeah, it's like the broken poles, the telephone poles, the twins.
Yes, yes.
so here are some proposed next steps. So do we all agree that we want to try to do this sign project?
Yes, I get it. I can look at it.
Okay.
Yes.
Question is the when part about that. What do we think about that current design? Do we want to try that design we were gonna try it at 4 locations. 2 with no name, 2 with names. And these were the 4 locations: Center Trail, Center School, Hughes and Pratt.
I rather like the names. We have so many,
I like
various-
the names too, but
so many different
Yeah. Because,
small trails. that
can I
need to
ask,
be identified.
what's the difference in cost between?
I don't think it's very much.
it's just, it's not
Yeah.
that much.
I think,
It
I
wasn't
agree.
for
I think we should put them in.
Leather.
Yeah.
Then someone, otherwise, if someone in my scenario is sitting in traffic in the morning and they see it, it says trail. If it has the name, it gives them something they can look up.
Yeah, if you're driving 30 miles per hour,
Oh, no.
I'm not talking stop and go, but you're talking road signs,
Yeah.
right? Let's just say on average, people are driving 30 miles per hour, maybe even faster, right? And you're gonna say, okay, we're gonna put up the name of the trail, and somebody's gonna remember it? I'm not in that camp. I think it's,
Oh, I would, absolutely.
yeah, that's
Especially if I've invested 3 times, I'd be like, okay. I mean, I'd even use my phone to speak to
still
my
the-
Siri,
yeah.
you know.
It still defaults to, so even if it's center trail and you're going 30 miles an hour, you still saw, what you saw was trail and
that's
sign.
not keep a trail, and so,
But the center trail, maybe you catch, maybe you don't. Maybe the first time through you go, oh, there's a trail there. I wonder what, I saw the name, but I didn't remember it. Next time, yeah.
I'm not in the camp of putting the name of the trail,
And that's
especially if it's got a long name.
Jack's point, to Jack's point,
If you get a long name,
You get a long name.
you're gonna have small park.
abbreviate, I can show you what the Pratt Whitehall Brook one looks like. That's among the longest we have, and I think it looks fine. But to Jack's point too, there are places where there's traffic just sitting, and then it really would work.
Okay, right, but I'm just on the presumption that, you know, not everybody's gonna be sitting, and the purpose of this is to get road traffic to acknowledge a trailhead.
Yeah, no,
That's the purpose, is to get a sign for people driving 30 miles per hour to say that's where the trailhead is. And so I think less is more.
Oh, that's not bad, Linda.
I mean, we can work it out that's the one that's 4 inches high at the top, and I think we can just make sure we fit them all in
Yeah, that
space.
came out nice.
Yeah, I like the name of the trail because as you say, you can look it up and it has some character to it. It's
Yeah.
not just some generic stop sign or slow.
I think the other point I was making before too is just it reinforces the names for people, and it also, if there's 2 or 3 trails on the same road.
That makes sense,
Use
that makes
people.
sense to me, to differentiate between the trailheads.
Ash Street, we have 2 now, maybe.
I understand, No, I understand the point.
Street.
The other thing you said is that you don't wanna put the hiker in because it's multi-use. But we have a tree and a river.
Oh, that was meant to be a path, not a river. Does it look like?
So, okay, let me be the spokesperson was saying, I thought it was a tree and a river.
well, I would submit that when you try and get these things so everybody's aesthetically satisfied, it becomes a place
Well,
that.
maybe
Well, I'm just trying to rename, what's the point? The point is,
make it look more like a path than a river, because
Well,
it wasn't meant to be.
the charge was, we wanted to know, let people know, and I'm thinking road, driving 30 miles per hour, there's a sign, there's a trailhead.
Yeah.
And does that sign do it for me personally?
Mhm.
And that's my point of view. I'm not saying aesthetics or anything like that. I'm like, no, I just want to see trail, arrow, you know? But that's just too banal.
I like the aesthetics of this one. It's pleasing to
So,
me.
This is a two-step process, One is the sale, so you get the more sort of person driving, or whatever, they see there's a trail, there's an asset there they can potentially access. Then the second thing is when you get on the trail, you give more information.
Yeah,
And hopefully, if we do it right, you give them enough information so it ties them into the whole trail system. And that's it, sort of a two-step process for people going. I don't know,
So then I guess the question is, do we want to proceed with a trial at 4 places and try to we'll get cost estimates. We have to pitch it and proceed with a trial of 4 signs, and if we do that, do we want to do all of them with the trail name or none, and then get feedback later?
Well, I thought we had to figure out why people don't want signs. I thought that was,
Well, that'd be
Well,
part of
that-
pitching with.
Oh, the
Oh,
other,
okay.
that's yeah, the other thing you have to, though, you will, I assume the select board will ask you. You know, so you're doing a pilot with 4, how many, what's the goal? And if they're concerned about signs, they need to know that.
people are getting lost and to familiarize advertise our
To
assets.
make more people get more people using it, it's a great asset.
But to your point, we can find a number
Somewhere,
known,
yeah.
What do you guys?
the number of signs that we're gonna go in. So there'll be
Oh,
one on South Street, there'll be one on Cameron, there'll be one, put 2 on Cameron.
That's a really good point.
One down on Wood Street and one.
Right.
So you're talking about the ultimate build out.
Right. So so if they go to the select board, say we're doing 4 as a pilot, that's gonna be the first one.
200 at the end of the day.
And that is.
5
a lot.
years.
Hopefully not 200. I could see them talking a little bit of 200.
what, no, but that's a,
No, yeah, we have about 40. I think we have about 40.
I'll ask the chair, what actions required on Um. I'm gonna make a motion that we proceed with the pilot of both signs. We carried, part of that is carrying into the powers that be to see if they read that approach, and we put the name of the trail on the side. But that's my motion.
Second. Discussion.
Okay, discussion? I mean, I think it makes sense. Yeah, we can get on the select board agenda pretty easily for something like this and
I think it would help a lot.
I agree.
I know, it was positive momentum.
Thoughts on all signs having full name? I mean, I think,
Well, that was my motion. Now we're discussing my motion.
It's a discussion.
I had to run a committee with 20 people, and you gotta keep our focus here. Oh, so that's what we're talking about. That's what my motion said.
okay, and we've got a second. Discussion on Jack's motion only.
So I will say.
Here.
So we could we could do them all with names, get feedback from people. And if feedback says, nah, the name didn't mean anything to me, I couldn't see it. We just don't, we can take the name off and we don't have to do the names on any of the ones in the future. We could.
The only way you can do that, to gives you a really substantive conclusion, is to do a focus up. And I don't think we're in that. business.
No.
No.
Right, but that's how you have to do. You have to focus. And I just don't think that's the game for it. Otherwise, you just, I don't know what the basis of any conclusion you're.
You know what? To your motion, what we'll do is we'll give the select board the two options.
Oh, no.
No,
No, that's not our job, you know.
they don't, they would like that.
Maybe I'm Scott, my motion.
No,
Yeah, that becomes a 20-minute discussion on their part.
no,
Right.
this is just my personal opinion, right? And I think the signs are appropriate.
I will tell you something, the way I got this idea. It's not an original idea, but I was down on the Cape, we're driving down a road. I see a sign that says blah, blah, blah trail here, and it gave the name of it, and we were at the stop sign, we saw the sign, we were maybe going 40 miles an hour, but at a stop. I said, okay, let's look that up, that's where we're gonna go look, so when I Googled it, I was a passenger in the car, so I could Google, and we went to that trade-off, we found out what it was like, so. Having the name was really helpful, because we weren't going right then, we went later, so. I don't know, but that sign also had like 8,000 logos on it, and I was just like, what a terrible sign, but look, there was the name, and that's it.
No, I appreciate the thought. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I just personally I'm not in favor of having the name on the trend. I like less is more. That's it. I'm not saying technical.
So I think we're gonna go with this.
Okay, so the question, yes, we've
Oh, question.
got a motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Did you go,
Opposed?
Can't hear.
you're and I? Okay.
Yes. Okay,
And one other question is, we really should solicit some feedback after the pilot, so at some point we should figure out how to get that
yeah,
feedback.
but that's for another day.
Yep.
Which is different than Jack's focus, right?
Yes,
I think we go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
yeah, we do it, and then afterwards.
And part of that's doing it is if you gotta go to the select board. I'd
Right.
rather go with you if you want.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, nice segue to trail priorities and master plan, continuing discussion. So we wanted to focus on public outreach. Obviously, science, I think, is a key part of that, and because it was something that we were already working, let's just keep that moving.
Yeah.
But what other things did folks,
The website. I think the website needs priority.
okay?
Let me make.
Yeah, we should just,
I brought up I have the sheet I can come to, but it's hard to type on both, so what is right, what people say. Oh, actually,
You want a pad, Linda?
no, I'm good. And you know what? At a future meeting, we will pretty far along on a website, working with the town. And I know, Jane, you've talked to me about the UCT had a website, but we've run into a lot of trouble with the town with not using what was on the town.
So, if I could just jump in, the town kept the old UCTC site and then kept the old TMC site.
Mhm.
And now we may have a third site. And so my only comment was, do we want to combine all of those, or is there a value? Because I know all of the documents that the UCTC had are valid, they're accurate, and they're on that website, and that website actually is fairly attractive.
I
It has
think we really
pictures.
only want one website based on all we did. That's like the biggest things. People don't want to have to know, I go here for this thing and here for this, it's
Yeah.
trails.
Right.
You know, that website can have something about, you want to see documents on the UCT, here they are.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't have separate websites for them.
That was my original thought when we first started talking about that. And what I liked about the old UCTC bill is easy to change from the Upper Charles Trail Committee just to the simple Trails Committee, Hopkinton Trails Committee, and keep the same attractive, you can add on photos, you can keep the same attractive color, because it's there existing already.
We have one existing too, though, and it's already on the town site. It's there.
They're both there. So I guess the question proceeding, or
Okay.
as we proceed is, people might want to take a look at those, both of them, and see what we want to do and how we thoughts about combining both of them.
So that's a great idea. So what we could do is, what we have on the website now is only the bare start of what we were gonna do. So we can do a pitch on what we had proposed
Yeah.
to do and worked out. And we can show your existing one, we can show the proposed one.
And the advantage with ours is that, and you would know more about this than I do, Linda, but we actually own the site. This committee can own that site, so you can have control over it.
See, the town won't allow that.
Well, they're doing it now. They adopted this. And it's currently, that's how we use it. And I had a conversation with Elaine. She wasn't aware of that, but that's how we said
We
it.
had a
up.
conversation with Elaine too, where she said absolutely not. I
No.
don't, it's not want anyone outside of I
No, so
doing the work on the sites.
no, we wouldn't be able to touch the site. If we wanted to change something on it, we would have to submit it and go through the town.
Right, but sort of the point is then why own it? Who cares?
Because we would be able to,
There's no value in that. In fact, it's worse because then people in the town have.
well, I think you have to take,
systems to work on. No, I've looked,
yeah,
I mean, the town employees who work on these sites, they work under one thing. If they have to work on 5 different things, it could take longer for them. So that's why they want everything. Sort of this.
well,
I would, it
It's
seems
been-
to me, the whole thing that we're all involved in as the town created the One Trails Committee.
Mhm.
And I think what we need to do is we need to,
Figure out.
whatever the components are, but we need to have one website. We don't need 2 websites.
Right.
and that's why we
One
start talking about it.
sort of bigger generic issue is, I've seen you all been on the town website at one point or another, looking for something.
It's very hard.
It needs to be beta tested. Right? So when I go looking for a library, for example,
When you go look.
when I'm looking for the library website, I don't think to look under public. I look under L. If you're in Hopkinton, your library is listed under public library, which is crazy. If you're looking for schools, it's not under schools, it's under Hopkinton schools in the town website. And that's why it's sort of a big picture. And as a trail person, I think we can push to the select board or to somebody that, hey, before we ultimately, our goal is to have somebody be able to click on Town of Hopkinton website and be able to know trails. Okay, drill down, they can find a trail committee. I don't want them having to go, oh, is it Hopkinton Trails? Is it committee? Trails of, I mean, it's just,
And I think they even have it now like under land use.
yeah, we're under.
It's buried.
You can't find things on the website, so first step, I think, is telling somebody powers that be that bloody website is, to your point,
Well,
Could we?
not very user friendly.
I would like to say that we don't tackle the world, we tackle our part of it. And
So how do we do that?
when I was working with them last time, which
They
was a
can't
while
find
ago,
our part of it.
I was working with them last time. we could not agree on the top level because they said, oh, well, we have this in mind for some future thing and that's why we're calling it land use and blah, blah, blah. So I said, fine, give us a shortcut. If somebody types Hopkinton Mass Gov/trails, they can get right to our page. They did that and then they gave us all the control we wanted within there. So we still should argue the upper point, but we can get a heck of a lot done even without that hard to find in the first place. And maybe over time we can work on the hard to, I just don't want to take on telling them the whole
Yeah,
website.
no, it's
Yeah, I think if we
Yeah.
put a trail, if we have one trail site that has everything we want on it and it's good, then we can argue the other point. People having a hard time finding it or whatever. But that's Elaine's problem. That's why she makes the big.
Could we put this on as an agenda item and maybe Linda would be good enough to run us through what we have now? And then we could have a discussion as we go
If we
work through
agree
it.
This is the next biggest priority, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
And it's gonna take more than one meeting.
I agree that maybe
Yeah.
if we work on it for, I don't know,
Yeah.
20 minutes or half an hour and then
Mhm.
continue to move on with that.
Yeah.
Because we could talk all night about this. right
Yeah.
now.
Okay, other things besides the website that folks think are important as far as public awareness? Okay, I mean,
Oh, one I think is,
meetings,
one I think is the sign thing, but I think. If people have the energy, I put some time into it, is, I think we need to just go out and do a little talking to people.
Mhm.
And there's a couple ways that I thought you could do it. One is you could just do a listening session where you invite the public to come in. I think one of the things, if you do that, and my experiences in DCR, the Stewardship Council, we get public comments at every meeting, et cetera. But what we did was, we did it 3 times a year. We go out and we do a Zoom one, but we schedule a listening session, which is just anybody can comment and tell us anything that's on their mind about that subject. And just see, and the first time we had 6 people, the last time we had 40 people. So, but it's the kind of process that you need to commit to. So, if you show up and 3 people show up, you just say, fine, we're gonna keep doing it. So that's one, and then the other one is to try and get input from smaller groups, whether it's town committees or the school committee. Or,
Seniors.
like the school committee, I asked them the question in their vision of. Do they see trails as performing a function in their vision within their network? And the other one is that I'd like to talk to is, I'd like to talk to realtors. And say, what do you think about trails?
mhm,
Are they something you use to enhance a property? Anyway, those are the kinds of things that I think we should do to try and detach attention, and all that requires is sitting somewhere for an hour or 2 and taking notes or whatever, and I'd be glad to do that.
mhm.
And I think you really, just so, the one thing you really need to convey to people is, you're not there to tell them that, listen. I mean, and the only thing you might do is if someone says something and you have a clarifying question, if you want to get them to say something more, you can ask them, but it's not a debate, it's just. Tell us what you
So how do you set that up?
well, to do that, I think we could just schedule a time and place and put it out on the Times website and in the newspaper and say, the new Trails Committee is gonna have a listening session and we look forward to talking to
It's
people.
gonna be on Zoom.
We could do,
Or
it's a
hybrid.
little more complicated when you do the mixed meeting.
So do it totally Zoom, you would
You
think?
could
or-
do totally Zoom or we could,
Yeah.
we could do just in person, just so you showed up.
I'm a little concerned about it. I like in person better. Don't get me wrong. At my age, I do. I like that. But a lot of what we're trying to do is reach folks with young kids.
Right.
The users.
Yes.
And Zoom might work, but we could certainly.
It's not a fan of it, but what I found is that the council I'm on is a statewide council. When we get, and there was a real initiative to go to different parks and have in-person meetings, et cetera. And what we get when we go to a park, even in the Lowell Heritage Park or something,
Mhm.
where you have a lot of population around it. You get maybe at the most, you get a dozen people. If you go on to Zoom, every month we have 40 to 60 people.
So you do it,
You just get a bigger.
I said it as a monthly.
Oh, this is
No,
that's a statutory monthly meeting, but I'm saying when we do these, you just got, Zoom probably works better because what you just get,
You
you know, the other thing, yeah,
Easy.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not business.
People don't have, if people have something to say, they'll zoom in and say it rather than get in their car and drive to the high school, wherever they.
Right.
Like I say, it doesn't have to be either or, it can be both. One time it can be in person.
Yeah, no,
I'd like to add on some other ideas to tack on, Jack. I think listening is great, but I think it also might be good to have some sessions where we also present something and have listening. So let's say we have the new Chamberlain Extension Trail or the new Ash Street parking lot. Maybe we invite people to come do a little walk and celebrate it and have a listening session right there.
that's fine. I mean, you do need, you can't just turn on you gotta give them some context to why they're there and what you want to know, but I think
Right.
it's I think our point of view is simple. We're a new committee. It's important to us. We obviously volunteered and we want to know, we want to get a sense of what people say,
Mhm.
you know? And I think there's a lot of people out there that, I mean, just not anecdotally, but I walk the Center Trail every day. And for the last 2 months, it's been unwalkable because of the ice. And in the last week, it's sort of like in the spring when flowers come up there. All these people that I haven't seen in 2 months walking on the trail, and they all say the same thing. It's so great, this trail's free. And we gotta find a way to talk to those people.
Well, another thing we could do to supplement this is so we could put signs on the trails about the listening sessions. So one thing we haven't made good use of is temporary signs.
Yeah.
We can just put a yard sign that says trail listening session on this date,
Yeah.
because then we're getting the people who use it. You won't hit the people who don't.
Open space.
Well,
You'll get us.
Another thing too is we could do surveys. We could have QR codes with online surveys people could fill out, so.
You could, I was one of the things I thought in terms of public outreach, and I've been thinking about it for a while, is, for informational purposes, articles, a short article in the Independent
Mhm.
every couple of, once a month, so every couple of sessions on, Center Trail, on Echo Trail, on just, where it is, what its features are. But you could certainly dovetail that with a listening session.
Yeah. I just think it's,
Yeah.
no, I mean, it's, I think it makes good sort of public policy sense, but I also think for me on this committee, it's a good way to sit down and figure out, it only takes an hour or two and you listen. It's not, it's easy.
But I agree with Jack, where it's a targeted outreach, certain venues will get different feedback. You mentioned, the seniors, you mentioned realtors, you mentioned doing Zoom meetings to accommodate families, or you did. And then, or in public or in-face meetings, right? So that's 4 different sessions that we could spread over 4 different. I mean, I think that's great. And then the other thing that we haven't talked about yet, but maybe indirectly, is the other towns and committees.
Okay.
So Jane, you mentioned OSBC, right? Get the acronym right.
Yep.
And then CPC you're with CPC.
I'm not on it, but yeah.
Not me, but you're
Yeah.
meeting with the CPC, and then you and I are gonna go to planning board. And then maybe Linda, I assume you're gonna do the signs with the select board,
Maybe.
well, whomever, right? And so when we're reaching out to these committees, presumably we wanna do some type of an update, because that was one of the feedbacks on the charge that they had, is that, we need to be coordinating with these other committees. So we're gonna go there with very specific projects for that particular meeting. But do they know enough? Are we getting enough feedback from them? And do they know enough about what we're doing
Mhm.
to kind of build that two-way street of
Right, and so
communication?
planning board is a great example of where that's absolutely essential, because they get a development in.
Yeah.
There's gonna be land around the outside that may be good for trail, maybe not good for trail, but man, we ought to be coordinating on that stuff.
Right, and so we're talking about here, the outreach,
Mhm.
right? And so what are the action items associated with that?
Mhm.
And I just identified where each of us are gonna be at these different committees.
Right,
How do we wanna conduct ourselves to really offer, take that opportunity to make sure that open line of communication is done?
so for example, so when we go to the planning board on the scenic road hearing, give ourselves an additional 5 minutes and let them know that we're gonna be talking about
That's a good idea.
where we are, listening session, and so, while we're there.
I mean, there's two things. One is you go to talk to people and it's agenda driven. You know what you want to do. You want to accomplish something. And well, that's, I think, a good idea. But the other thing I was thinking about is really without an agenda, just hear what people have to say.
Totally get that, Jack. I think that's, I think we should be doing that on a regular basis
Right.
with
that's-
different venues
Right.
and different mediums.
And I also think in terms of, I'm guessing, maybe I'm wrong here, I'm an optimist, but in terms of, sort of political support, for lack of a better term, of the trails and things, if you're telling people, we're talking to people. We're having every quarter, we're having a Zoom meeting with the public to find out what we're talking to realtors, we're talking to people. I think that gives you a little more footprint.
Credibility.
Yeah, and credibility.
Absolutely. No, I definitely think we should do that. How do we do that? Or when we do that?
Well, right.
Do I need to make a motion? Because I will. Do I volunteer you, John?
Something else too, and Chuck does before we get to motion, but I think that's a good idea.
Chuck, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure, but since you're talking about public participation and communication, for those of us who are chiming in from home, I have not seen a display of the meeting. So I can't tell, other than voices, which I'm beginning to learn, who's speaking. And for a while, share screen was showing Linda's amazing minutes. But there was no video of the group. And I'm just saying that,
We're aware the camera's not working.
yeah, oh, okay.
But
But
it's a special
certainly
for tonight
For
issue.
future public participation, that's
Yeah.
something need to be sorted out. Sorry to
Yeah.
bother you. Okay, bye.
That's fine.
So I want to also raise a couple other ways to do this kind of get feedback and outreach. One of them is, we use the Trails Club for a lot of things, like we do walks with them. We also plan some maybe events with them, especially because they have the 20th anniversary coming up. We could have one of those trails events, be a listening session. And other things are just like on sustainability committee, we use existing town events and have a booth there. Polyarts, if we want to do it, we have to sign up by like May 1st. So we may want to vote on whether we want to do a booth there. In the past, Trails Club has done it with Paul, but tonight Trails Club said they don't want to do it because they don't think it's that valuable. I think it's valuable if you know how to work a booth. Like in sustainability, we got 50 people signing up for a mailing list of those booths. You can't just stand behind and talk to each other. You really have to grab people and pull them in. So if we had something like, trail survey or tell us your favorite trails, something to pull them in and grab them. I think Polyard says, one bad part about Polyards is half the people who come on from Hopkinton, but there are not many events where it's just.
Family fun day.
What's that?
Family fun day.
Yeah, that's like in a week or two though. We'd have to pull it together fast.
No. It's all fun. It's like the weekend after.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's family fling on the common this weekend.
Okay.
Okay, so family fun, that's a good one. And then we get families.
Yeah.
You get families and you get hockey to be.
Yeah. So just one follow-on to Linda's is that the Trails Club has a large email list of people. So that's a great place for the listening session. Jane,
If we have something very specific we want to sell to people or share with people, it's not a bad idea to actually, like the sustainability thing is very positive with this, they actually go to the various committees and boards in town, and request to get on their agenda.
Yeah.
And, yeah, but if we ticked off every committee in
Yeah.
town,
I think that's what you were getting to.
So that's it. My recommendation, I'm gonna get sure what it's forth of that motion is for the next meeting. We start delineating these and then we start naming people as to, how do we want to move these things forward?
Right.
That's my
I mean,
recommendation.
I don't think you.
I don't want to put Jack on the spot.
No, I don't want to be on the spot, but I think we don't need a motion. We just as a committee, decide this is something I need.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for your listening session, how would you see that going? I mean, you've got to have something to prompt
Well,
people.
what I would do is, I would simply, first you advertise it.
Yeah.
Go through all that, use the trail couple, however you do that. And then you simply do an introduction. You say, we're a new trails committee. This is what we do. We're trying to find out what people think about trails, and we're here to listen to what you have to say. Short and sweet. You don't sell anything.
Yep.
You just tell us. I mean, you might say, we have 20 miles of trails in Hopkinton and, and this is where you could see a map of them, but. And I'm only hear what you feel about trails.
We could use that same approach if we decided to go to committees and boards. Ask for 10 minutes on your agenda in front of the meeting.
That's a whole different sell. Yeah, that's a structure.
Well, you gotta sell,
That's a structure.
But ask their feedback because these
Right,
people
that's
are
a
very.
structured pitch. Right. Whereas if you're going out to the public, this is what.
it's open, it's wide open on the receiving end. Yep, I get that, I totally get that.
See what people say.
But to Jane's point, I do think that same pitch works for committees because these are the active people.
That's
Well, just-
people who are gonna be.
You're asking them.
I get that, but when you go to the committee, like, we're gonna have to go to the planning board for the Ash Street parking, right?
Yeah.
Our pitch is, hey, we want to be able to bring in some dirt, level it, three spots, right?
Right.
That's the pitch. At that same point in time, we want to change the polarity and say, all right, give you an update on what's going on with the Trails Committee. And can we get some feedback from you?
Right.
So there's a pitch and then there's the change where you're trying to get the feedback.
But I think to Jack's point, the update that we have for them at this point is we're a relatively new committee. We're working.
We're gathering information and getting
We're
feedback.
working on trades and one of the, exactly.
I'm just trying to think of what the MO is going, longer term MO.
You want to know, without they doing the deal, how they work.
Yeah, it's an experiment.
Yeah.
And you have to be committed to the experiment. And the experiment is if you do it and two people show up, you don't stop.
Well,
Right.
the-
You try again.
you hope that-
Right.
And the other
You
thing
don't have a
is-
forum,
You don't need a quorum. It's you just get whatever they.
So I should write something, go ahead.
To your point, we should have something in outline so that if different people start doing these things, we're all coming from the same place.
Actually, that's what I was.
That's key.
Yeah, Jackson put that together for us.
What?
Just write it down.
No, it depends.
It depends on
If you're doing an open, and I mean, if you're doing an open forum, that's exactly what you do. Right,
So is this
for
something-
example, if we were to meet in a room with 10 or 12 realtors, that's different. You have a pitch, say, this are the trails. So they know about it. So it's a whole different thing you're doing. And you have to.
You have to adjust to the audience.
You do.
Exactly.
So
I
I
can make this an agenda item.
well, that's what I was gonna ask, so a couple things. So we're about to move into agenda items, but I just wonder, so the minutes are a lot. Are they too much? Do you want me to make them shorter?
I thought your outline form.
Well, there's different ways of doing minutes, I guess.
Yeah,
The other
I
thing
think
is-
it's a good level of material, unless it's overload for you, but I mean, I
No,
I like having
Well,
that.
The other thing is, I really feel we should call out action items,
Well-
like we agreed to. Because we're not doing that now, and I'd like to put them in bold. And so at every discussion we have, I'd like to end with reiterating what are the action items we decided on,
Yeah.
because it kind of gets lost.
Yeah.
Then we can follow up with those.
And some people do minutes where all they do is record the action items,
Yeah,
where the actual committee takes on the vote to do it.
In the
Different
beginning,
ways
I
of doing it.
appreciate what you're doing now, Linda, as we go forward. We may
it's what
change.
works for us. We can do
Yeah.
less, we can do more.
I think.
Less is more in my opinion.
Yeah.
I just, less is more.
It is, I agree with you.
Less is more, Ben.
All right.
Okay, but we will talk about action.
Oh, absolutely. When they have.
Almost.
Okay, accounting procedures, we're not gonna talk about, that was Scott and he's not here. So we're down to basically action items / agenda items for next meeting and adjourning. So one big agenda item is that we're gonna talk about connectivity next time because Gary Crandall's available to talk about kind of the connectivity study he started, and he did a big survey and got information. And I think that's you.
He's coming to the meeting.
He's coming in.
Connectivity to other towns or?
No, within Hopkinton.
It's very useful.
Yeah, just, people, when they're using trails, they're in sidewalks, they're looking for a 1 to 4 mile loop
Okay.
primarily. So just to give us some idea of how people are using trails / sidewalks,
And what they would like.
Biking.
Sure.
that sort of stuff. But he can kind of go through all that for us. So I thought that was useful. Other action items, clearly talking about how we'll do the listening sessions.
Well, I bumped that up a level, say public outreach with different categories. So we talked about a website,
Yeah.
looking at the sites, figure out, and I think when we look at the sites, I think we're gonna say, all right, what do we want?
Yeah.
And then we just.
What do we have? Now,
What do we want? Correct.
Yeah.
Right, so the website, and then you have what Jack was just suggesting, which is what I would call the true public outreach, right, literally the public, and then you have the committee / related associations and clubs outreach.
Yeah.
And so you have two different buckets, and depending on the audience, how do we want to approach them, and what should be our MO for that?
Mhm,
So we're meeting on the 26th, is that right?
correct. Yep. And then the issue of signs,
Oh.
and the issue of Ash Street parking. They're gonna get bumped into item 2, so we'll get an update on those. Chamberlain Extension, same thing. Sort of continuing updates.
Okay. And
And,
walk, will that be before? or after?
And in
That's
that's gonna be after the
the
meeting,
week after, yeah.
but you
we
said
should also-
you're gonna scope it out.
I'm
Right, we'll get an update on
Right, so
that.
that's an action, is to scope out
I'm trying to report back.
the trail walk.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh, and then just, we go to once a month starting in April, right?
yes.
I'll move we adjourn.
Second.
Anyone in favor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting, you said about, it's, if you enter the Center Trail, that would be a really nice thing. You could ask someone, how far are you looking to walk?